Alrighty, we are live, and howdy you, Beeflabard here, and it's going to be part 2-ish, and what we're doing is creating a game, and want to just kind of go through the steps of what's needed to create a game. So, with that, I've loaded up the project, and you see it goes directly to an untitled whatever map. And we don't really want it to do that. We want it to go directly to a map that we've already created. So we'll jump right in. We're on our main menu map now by double clicking on it. So we want it to come to our main menu map every time we load in our project. So I'm going to go to my edit project settings, and in there we have some things we can put in description for our game, the name of our game, the project version, company name, some basic information we can tag to our game, but we can do that later. Packaging, well, we'll get into this later also, but leaving it pretty much the way it is right now for packaging for development is where we want to go. So what we want to do is click on Maps and Modes first off, and default game mode, we want to bring this over to main menu game mode. Or since we're actually going to be doing a lot of going into our map and doing other things, let's go ahead and set it as third person game mode as our default. However, at our startup map, let's go ahead and set that to be our main menu map. Game default map, entry, we can leave that one alone, or we can go ahead and set it to be our main menu map as well. Not a big deal at this point, but this is where we can also put in a transition map. So if you wanted to transition from the main menu into whatever, we could build one in here. Server default map, we could set that all up there. Local multiplayer, if we wanted to use that later. Then we got split screen options. Our default game instance class, we have not set up a game instance, so that's something we should probably look into as well. So this is all set, ready to go, and global default server game mode. If you want, you can go ahead and set this to third person game mode. Not really going to matter all that much, but that's all we need to do for now. So now if we create our project, we're going to come into it, we're going to be right here, and to kind of recap where we are with our game, if we press play, then we have our really blank nothing main menu with nothing but a black screen and the option to play game or quit. If we hit play game, it's going to load us directly into our first map with our little launch pad. And this is where we told it to go to, so that we can do this as our tutorial map. So we could set up a few objectives for our player to do, and then when we get to the end, we can step on another platform and whatever, and that will actually save something for us to know that we've already completed our tutorial map, and that the next time we play our game, we go directly into our level 1, which is actually we call level 2. And if we wanted to, we could actually hit escape and change level 1. We change the name of it to tutorial underscore map. And I'm going to go ahead and click back on it and copy the name, because here in our UMG, we go into our widgets, main menu widget. If we look, we're asking right here, when we click the start button, it's going to ask, did we already complete that or not? So if no, then we want to go ahead and make this to be tutorial map. And if we did complete our tutorial, then we can go straight into level 2. So we'll build that functionality as we go. But for right now, every time we go in, it's going to go right to our tutorial map instead of right into our play map. Another thing we could actually probably do is, if we wanted, we could set up a option here, push button, or some other kind of functionality to say bypass the tutorial and go directly to our main map. So if we wanted to, we could actually put an option in here you know, if we press play game, then we want it to go directly in there. So for whatever, we're going to grab something and put it down here, and we're going to enable or disable the tutorial map. Have a widget to get messages for controls. Yeah, that would be a good idea, and then be able to click something to make it go away. So we can do that too. So let's go ahead and do this one little thing right here. We're going to add here something that we can use to disable the tutorial map. So what do you think we should do there? Do we want to just push a button and then, you know, have it you know, do that? Or, you know, we've got the options of doing a push button, a checkbox, a slider. So we've got these options right here. I like the idea of a checkbox, but let's be a little bit more creative and let's create a button. And I'm going to drag this button down here, and what we can do is add some text to that button. So I'm going to drag text on top of where that button is. We're going to rename the button to disable tutorial. Button. Disable tutorial button. And the text, we can just change that text over to disable tutorial. Now it doesn't fit, so I'm going to just use my mouse wheel and scroll in here, and I'm going to grab the button and I'm going to make it a little bit longer so we can see it right there. I'll make it just a little bit bigger. We want to be able to see it, and let's go ahead and anchor it to the bottom right hand corner so it will be tucked away down here on the bottom. But to add a little bit of functionality to know that we've actually clicked on that button or not, short term, since we want to make functionality before making pretty, but let's actually just grab an image, and we can do this, and let's actually make this to -1 on our Z order, so we can actually put this down here to wrap underneath our button, just to be different. And the color and opacity, let's also be a little bit more creative, and let's go ahead and set up a binding. So create binding. Never done this before, so let's figure it out as we go. So the return value is linear color structure. Let's see what we got to work with here. Select color. Since this is new to me, I've never done this before, so we'll just kind of make it up as we go along, right? Make color. Well, we can do that, and we can actually select an RGB. So if we want, we can have one here, which will make the color to be all green. And if we actually do Control C and Control V, and we'll do that as red, will be 1, and we'll set green back to 0. So now we've got a green color and a red color. So now we need to be able to make it say, okay, if we're doing this, then we want this to happen. So how can we switch that on to where, well, let's try setting a variable. Use tutorial, and then we'll grab a reference to it. It's going to drag these guys out of the way here, and I'm going to hold down the control key and left click and drag the use tutorial into it, and that's going to give us a get reference. If you hold the alternate key down and left click and drag it in, it'll give us a set. So we want to get this, and let's set up a branch node, If we want to use a tutorial, if the answer is yes, then set color and opacity, and we'll do that. And if yes, we want to use a tutorial, then we'll set it to green. That sounds fair enough. And then if we want to Control C and Control V, so if we don't want to use the tutorial map, then let's grab in this one, which is going to be our red color. So now we can change the color back and forth of that little image based on what we're going to do. So our return value, we still need to let's actually try dumping that and getting an extra return node. So let's try that. And we'll set one here, and we'll set one here. Just move them up just for the sake of it. Do that, and we'll do that. And if it's yes, then we use green. If it is no, then we use red. Alright, hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully it'll work. Never done this before, so let's actually see what happens. So we look back on our event graph. We don't need that yet. Go back to our designer. So now we need to create a little bit of functionality for the button. So let's actually go back to our graph. We have our button selected, and on clicked, what we want to do is set our use tutorial or not. But we want to toggle this somehow. Let's try seeing what happens if we just connect that together. So first off, we're just going to say use a tutorial or not. Then we'll come back up here and actually make some other functionality. So the on clicked, you could people the buttons for branch as well. Yeah. So yeah, I don't understand the way you've got that phrase there. I know you're tired, but for right now we just want to test the functionality. When we click the button, let's actually do a flip-flop, and that should work. So flip-flop means when you hit the button one time, it's doing one thing. When you hit it again, then it's going to do the other thing. So again, we can alternate left click, drag it into the map or into the screen here. So use tutorial, no, and yes. We will compile and save, and let's actually look at it by hitting play. Now let's quit really quickly because we forgot to set our image anchored to the bottom right. And let's go ahead and give our image a name. That's just going to be our tutorial use color. So now hit compile and save, and then hit play, and you see it's red. We need to switch it around. So now if I hit that button, it should, there we go, it's going to toggle back and forth, but it didn't function the way we wanted it to. So let's take a look at it here. Look at our graph again. Well, we know that use tutorial is defaulted to no, so let's default it to yes. Compile and save and try that. So see, it's green now. So if I click the button, it's going to turn it red. If I click it again, it's going to turn it green. So now we can enable or disable and have a visual reference to whether or not we're going to use that or not. Yeah, if you're not clicked on anything, you can just hold down B and left click, and it'll place a branch node. Yeah, I always forget about using the reroute nodes. Let's actually stop. So we got this functioning the way that we want. We know that we're going to default to using tutorial. So we can actually, since we have this right here, this was saved in our main menu game mode. With that, what we're asking when we click the start button is if we have completed or not. So what we can actually do instead for right now, let's take out that functionality and let's actually set in another. Oh, we already got a branch node. Never mind. We got a branch here. So what we want to do is when we click the button, we want to ask on this branch, use tutorial. So now whenever we click the start button, it's going to work off of our button that we have selected, and it's going to ask us, are we going to use a tutorial? And it's going to be based off of our response to what our button is. So now if we compile and save and run it, now we know that we've got one launch pad for our tutorial mission, so let's try that. See, it went directly into our regular map. It didn't go into our tutorial map. So we got these backwards. So let's just break these and switch these two around. So use tutorial, yes, or true, then we want to go to tutorial map. If no, we want to go to our regular map. So we'll compile and save. Now when we hit play, we look, let's change our text. Instead of disable, let's actually change that to read use tutorial, and then compile and save. Now when we hit play, use tutorial is automatically defaulted to yes. So if we hit play game, it's going to go to our tutorial map, and there we go, we're in our tutorial. Now if we hit escape to end it, if we hit play again, hit play, we know that works. So we come in here, we click this and turn off that, hit play, and now we're in our regular play map. So this all functions the way we need it to. So that's awesome. So what you were mentioning about the map, let's go to tutorial map. What we want to happen is when we first start this, and I'll just quickly do a lighting build. There's nothing really to do on lighting build here, but let's create a quick widget that has our basic controls in it. Should be relatively easy to do. So what we want to happen is, first off, we want to create the widget itself, and let's go ahead and user interface and widget blueprint tutorial I can't spell, tutorial controls underscore W, and all we want to do here is just create let's create an image, and let's make it size wise about 600 by 400. Let's anchor it to the center, and so that we get it directly in the center, but let's get it in the center and up a little bit. So since we're anchored to the center, if we were to try to do 0 and 0, well, that's just going to anchor off of one corner. So what we want to do is get half of our x, which is going to be 300. And since we want to move it over the other way, we got to do negative 300. And then let's do a negative 300 again here. So that's going to move it up a little bit. Let's actually move it up to a negative 500. So it's more towards the top of the screen and up in our view here. We're going to quickly come in here, make it black, set the alpha to 0.5 so we can kind of see through it. And just throw some text in here. And our text, let's go ahead and anchor to the center so it locks it into that same location. And we're just going to write some, this is your basic controls WASD to move, and space to jump. You can configure this however you want, make it look however you want. We just want to get some functionality. But you see how it jumps off the screen like that? We need to scroll down here and auto wrap text. Actually, let's center it, and we want to auto wrap our text, or do our wrapping, so that it keeps it inside there. And I thought that was it right there. Our font, let's actually make it bigger. Why are you not wrapping here? There's always one little minor thing that I'm always missing out here. Wrapping, auto wrap text. There we go. Not this one. This one does nothing for some reason. But wrapping, it's a separate block right there for doing that. And let's actually make it even bigger. Nope, too big. No, that's good enough. So you can set these up however you want, just to make it functional. We just want it to work. Compile and save, and let's close that down. And since we're in our tutorial map right now, let's go to our blueprint for that map. And from this right here, let's go ahead and add in a delay of 5 seconds or 6, whatever. So it gives us a chance to get into the map, and then from there we want to create a widget. We want that to be our tutorial controls widget. Owning player is get player controller, and we want to add to viewport, and then we want to make this go away. We need to make it get off our screen. So let's go ahead and set show mouse cursor to true. Oh, excuse me. So we can turn on our mouse cursor at that point. So it's going to wait 5 seconds, and then it's going to turn our mouse cursor back on, even though we already told it here to get rid of it. Yeah, I mean, you could do it so many different ways. So we got that. Let's go ahead and go back to our widget here, since we already have it up. And actually, this is the main menu widget. We want to go into our tutorial control widget. And then let's go ahead and add in a button to close it here. So we'll grab a button, throw it in here, anchor it to the center, grab some text, throw it on top, change the text to close, and let's go ahead and make our button just a hair bigger. And so that we can get rid of it when we hit our button to close, let's actually go in here, do a quick compile, save. Our button unclicked. Currently right now we don't need any of those things. So when we click our close button, all we're wanting to do is remove from parent, and we may have to move this to the other side. So let's actually move it over here before we remove it from the parent. Let's cast to player underscore base, And let's get a reference to our player character. Get player character. And then what we want to do here is we want to set input. Actually, we need to do it from the executable here. Set input to game mode only. We don't actually want this. I get in the habit of casting to that all the time. We want to get player controller instead. And we want to set our input mode to game only. And we want to set show mouse cursor to false. So no check in the box. And then we want to remove from parent. So now let's give that a shot. Let's actually go back to our main menu. Save selected. We're going to hit play. Do we want to use our tutorial? Yes, we do. We want to go into it, hit play game, and here in 5 seconds we should get our widget pop up. There we go. And you see we can still move our character and stuff. So to prevent that from happening, we can do something else really quickly. Hit close. So with that, let's go back into our widget and look at our graph. And no, this is actually going to be fine. Let's actually go back into our level blueprint. Tutorial map. Open level blueprint, and where we have this to set show mouse cursor, we're not worried about that. Let's actually set our input mode. Set input mode to UI only. And let's go ahead and remove our delay. Let's move all of these guys back over here. We don't need this other player controller reference. Let's actually break that, and we're going to go directly into creating our widget right as soon as we go into the map. So as soon as we load in, we're going to create this widget. We're going to add it to the viewport, but let's go ahead and move that out of the way, and let's move that out of the way, and we want to bring this guy in. So we want to go directly from here to here, and here back to here, and our return value is the widget to focus. Let's make some room for that to come down here so it looks pretty. So what we do is we go into our map, we create our widget, we set our game to input mode being UI only. So we don't have any movement, we don't have any control of our character, we just have our menu. And then as soon as we, inside of our widget, tell it to close, then as soon as we hit that close button, we're setting it back to game mode only. We're turning off our mouse cursor and we're getting rid of the widget. So let's go back to our main menu. Let's hit play, play game. There's our widget. We have our mouse cursor. Okay, close. And now we're into normal operation. There we go. Yeah, Unity takes a lot more patience to get started with. Click continue and to get to the menu. So that's another thing we need to set up is an escape menu, because when you're actually playing, and we have an error. What do we get for an error? Set input mode UI only. We didn't have a player controller reference. Really? Blueprint. We didn't do it right here. So we just need to connect that to our player controller. That was it. We need an escape menu, and we're not going to be able to use it when we're actually playing in this view. So let's go ahead and create a new widget. Go to our widgets folder, user interface, widget blueprint, and we'll call this escape menu W. And all we really need is 2 buttons. So I'm going to do this a little bit different. We're going to grab a vertical box, and I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger just for right now. And inside this vertical box, we want to add in a button. And then we want to add some text to our button. So we want our first button to be main menu button, so we know what button it is. Our text, let's go ahead and say on our button, main menu. And we can go back to our functionality if we wanted to make it invisible or whatever else. We're not going to make it pretty right now. We're just going to make it functional. And then we're going to come down to our primitives. And we want a spacer. We're going to grab that spacer and drop it into our vertical box. And our spacer, we want to go ahead and set it to 10 on our Y. Y because Y is now up and down instead of Z. Let's actually make it 20 so we have a nice little space in between. And then what we want to do is select our main menu button, right click, copy, click back on our vertical box, and then paste. So now we can select this button, and let's call this our resume button. So if we didn't want to go back to our main menu, we just wanted to continue playing, let's hit this. So resume game. So we have 2 buttons, go back to our main menu or resume game. So we'll click on a vertical box, we'll scale it back down to where it's roughly there. We're going to anchor it to our center, and we want to make it pretty. We can do 500 and 125, and then do -250 and -350. Let's bring it down some. -125. So it's a little bit above center. So boom, and then okay, we can either go back to our main menu or do that. That's lovely. So we can actually go to our graph, select our main menu button on clicked, and again, right now we don't need these other things. So we're going to do that, and then our resume button on clicked. These are the only thing that we need to worry about right now. And from here, all we got to do is just select open level, and we just need to get the name of our main menu map, even though I know it's called main menu map. If you forget how it's spelled, you can always go back and click on the name a couple times till it turns like that, hit Control C, and then come back in and Control V and paste it back in. And you don't have to worry about giving it the listen, because you're just going back to our menu, and that's a multiplayer thing anyway. But to resume, well, we need to have a mouse cursor. So when we actually hit the escape key, we're going to have to put some functionality into the player character. So let's actually go ahead and compile and save, and then let's actually open up our character, because we've got to have an escape menu. That's like the thing. So let's actually come in here, and next let's go to edit and project settings. We need to create an input. Down here under engine, input, action mapping, click on the plus, and let's call this our escape menu. And then let's click on here, and because it's being a pain in the ass, I got to open it back up again. Select keyboard, and we want the escape key. So we just find the escape key in the list, and that's it. Now we can come over here and type in escape so we can find our escape menu. Now you could have just done that, but I'm going to do it here instead, so I actually have a true key binding. So when we press the input action of pressing the button for escape, we want to create a widget. We want to select our escape menu widget. Totally unnecessary, but we have to have this. Get player controller. And from that, we want to also add to viewport. And then we want to set show mouse cursor. So we can have a mouse cursor so we can actually select the buttons we want. And say yes. So when we hit escape, we're going to create a widget. We're going to add it to our viewport and enable our mouse cursor. And I'm going to hit compile and save. At this point, we can actually come over here and on click resume, we can let's go ahead and get our, what we need to do, our set input. And I cannot set input to game mode only. We need our get player controller, and then we want to set show mouse cursor to no, and then yep, remove from parent. Alright, so if we hit our main menu button, it's going to take us directly into our main menu and we're done. If we decide we don't want to, we want to go back to playing our game, we click on our resume button and it turns off the mouse cursor and it removes that widget from our view, and we should be all set. And give YouTube time to refresh there. It's not showing that it's actually up to the speed here. So I'm actually going to reload my page. So I am at my main menu here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select play, and then we're using our tutorial. We're going to go ahead and play game and close, but if we hit escape to try our menu, it's not going to work. So what we have to do is right next to the play button, click here and we can run standalone game. That's going to create a whole pop-out window and a whole new version of our game in a standalone fashion, just like we were actually going to play our game, but just in a window. So I'm actually not gonna, we're gonna test this out again. Use tutorial. I'm gonna click that so it turns red, so we're not using our tutorial. And let's play game, and we're going into our actual level 1. So now as we're playing our game, we're all happy. We're playing with our fancy jump pad that launches us. Hit escape, and again, we still have movement of our character. So let's actually go ahead and turn that off. But we still have this. We can actually resume game. And now we can go back to playing or hit escape again and go back to the main menu. So now we can hit quit and close our game. So we want to improve our functionality, and we want to go ahead and at this point, let's go ahead, when we hit our escape menu, we need to set input to UI only. And let's go ahead and drag these two guys out, and let's drop this in line here and here. Get reference to our player controller here, our widget here, and now we're going to disable our movement. And so now whenever we hit escape, we're going to stop our player from being able to do anything. If you were in the middle of combat, you probably wouldn't want this to happen, so you'd probably want to use pause game, so it pauses the game and you can resume later. But let's go ahead and just use this fashion right here. Hit compile and save, and now if we hit play again, it's going to go back into our standalone version and bring it up that way. Yeah, with its current settings, it's not dropping at all. It's a lower frame rate. It's 20 FPS, not optimal, and it's only 720p, but okay. So let's play our game. And let's close this. So now we're all good. We can come in here, we're playing, we're doing our little lovely stuff, and I'm tired of playing. Let's hit escape. And now we don't have any control of our character. I can hit resume game, and I'm back to normal again. I hit escape, go back to my main menu, we're all good. And we can again test our button there, hit play, and it brings us into our regular map. We're all good. And we can hit main menu and quit. Everything is working. Alright, any questions? So, you guys have seen where we are right now of setting up some basic functionality for our main menu, getting the game to where it's at this status. And I'm going to go ahead and hit play one more time while I'm waiting for questions. So it'll load up the game like we're actually playing it. And this is cool. I can actually have a menu. It's boring. There's no sound whatsoever. I am going to drop a link into chat here, and it's for a website that I use for finding music, and we want to add some music to our background. This is just absolutely quiet and lame. We don't have anything. If we wanted to, we could also take a screenshot of the game, post a screenshot inside here so we have some kind of visual, but I'm actually going to go ahead and quit game, close it down, and let's add some music, because this is boring. There's just nothing there. I'm old school. I think if you're at a menu, you should hear something, you should hear some sounds. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to link the website, and the website itself is TeknoAxe. If you're not familiar with TeknoAxe, it's royalty-free music, and everything I'm going to show in creating this game project is going to be free. So that's actually the link right here in chat for that particular website, and play around with it and you'll find some really cool stuff. In our assets folder, I'm going to create a folder called audio, and I'll go into that. Now here's the thing, is there's some really cool stuff on there music wise, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up an example and I'm going to show you quickly how I convert it, because you want to use, for simplicity, a WAV file, and I use a 16-bit WAV file. And I'm going to go to, I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm browsing my hard drive, one of them, to find my music, and I'm going to play an example. Level selections. Yeah, I've actually got a system that I use for when you're in your main menu, and if you want to choose a particular mission or map you want to go directly to and use a checkbox, you put a check in the box, and you can actually, if you change your mind, you can select whatever you want and it'll switch between those so that you can actually go back and forth. Alright, I'm just going to pick one of these. These are some of the ones that I was actually listening to for other reasons. And I'll show you here. This is a wave sound that I've already converted. Megapolis. This is I've already converted that one over. What I did was I used another program, and this was called Home Suite Megalopolis or whatever. That's on the TeknoAxe website, and again, it's royalty free. What I actually did was I used a program called Audacity, which is also free, you bring up Audacity and then go to File, Open, and then navigate to the location where the files are. And in this case, this was it right here, Home Suite Megalopolis, and then hit Open. Let it do its thing, load it up, and you don't have to do anything at all except for File, Export Audio, and then I've already got mine to save as type, WAV, Microsoft Sign 16-bit PCM, and then click Save, and that's it. I'm actually going to close it because I've already done it, but that's it. That's all you had to do. And then once you've done that, it's created the 16-bit WAV version, and I'm just going to left click and drag it directly into the folder right here. So left click, drag and drop, and it should automatically bring it in. It's either working or taking way too long. And that always works, but you can always click on the import button and select wherever it is. And in this case, it was in, you can ignore all these folders. You see nothing. Music, YouTube, yeah. So there we go. Now it's in, and if we click play, it'll actually load that and play it. For some reason, everything is being really slow right now. So click on that again to stop it. Go ahead and save all. And we're already in our main menu. If you're not, just go to your maps folder and double click on main menu map. I'm going to actually close down everything that I've got up here. I don't need those right now. So I'm going to come to the blueprint for the main menu map, and on event begin play, the first thing I want to do is I want to play sound at location, and the sound we want to do is the only one that we have in here so far was our Megalopolis, and I'm going to left click and drag that over here. Yeah, I have folders for everything, so that's just what drives you can see. I've got another 2 more drives that you didn't see just then, and I have folders scattered all over the place, and I know what's where. I know where everything is. So yeah, that's just my weirdness. So yeah, I was actually going to go back to where I uploaded the audio, and if I mouse over it, I can see the duration. I'm looking for, you see, path, the cooking file path, looping, and then duration is 273.031, blah, 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 blah. All we care about is 273.0, so we'll round that up to 274, and screw you, we're not going to autosave. So we're going to take that 274, we're going to add a delay, and we're going to put our delay in for 274 seconds, and then we're going to loop it from our completed back to here. What that's going to do is I'm going to hit compile and save, and now when we hit play, let it do its thing and load up, and we will have music playing in the background. It's going to be a little bit loud. Just that easy, we've added music to our main menu. I'm actually going to quit, and I am going to go back into my blueprint, open level blueprint, and click on the arrow right here, and I'm going to change my volume from 1 to 0.6. 60% volume level is what we're doing here. Compile and save, and I'm actually going to go back to playing in a selected viewport so I can have a little bit faster access. So it plays it at a little bit less volume, but now we have music. So let's add a screenshot in, which actually let's go back into play and close, and then this is going to be the most boring screenshot ever. I'm going to hit the print screen key. Okay, and then I'm going to hit escape. Now I'm going to bring up GIMP. GIMP is a free program for graphics editing. You can use Photoshop, you can use Microsoft Paint, but I'm going to use GIMP. Since I hit print screen already, all I have to do is hit Control V. It'll paste that image directly in here. And then what I'm going to do is actually come in here and grab the rectangle select tool and pick a point right here, drag across, Control C, and then Control Shift V, and that's going to paste it as a new image. I'm going to hit the action discard to change on the original image. So now I want to actually save that, so I'll hit Control Shift and E, and you can't see, but it's off the screen of the window telling it where to go. I'm going to leave it default as a PNG file. I'm going to select the folder that I want it to go to. I'll spare you the joy of looking at all these because of my massive amounts of folders here. I'm just going to call this our test SS for test screenshot. We're going to leave it as a PNG file and save. And we can close GIMP. We no longer need it. And I'm just going to go to my hard drive. I'm going to find where I just saved that to. Yes, it's in a folder called new shit. So we want to find our test SS that we just created, and actually because I'm me, I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder, and we're going to call this textures, and let's go into it, and then I'm going to left click and drag that image directly in here, and there it is. That's our screenshot we just saved. So let's actually go back to our main menu widget. And let's add in another image. And let's make it a little bit bigger. And what we want to do now is we're going to go back to where we had our image saved. I'm going to left click on it. I'm actually going to save all just because. I'm going to have it selected. Go back in here. And under my brush and all this stuff that's right over here, I'm going to open up my brush. And then where it says image, I'm going to click on that arrow. And there we go. We got it right there. Now, I do recommend if you're going to use anything from TeknoAxe, it is a very polite thing to do, and part of the Creative Commons license and everything else, that you should use a reference to, or to say where you got your music from. And one of the easy ways to do that is to actually grab his logo, and I have his logo already saved, but I'll open up another one, go to our website, which was, I have a lot of bookmarks. My bookmarks are the only thing that is not completely organized. I know, that's sad, right? TeknoAxe, we'll go to the website. And if we want, we can actually save this one right here. Let's view image. And if we want, we can use that one. He does have another one, but that is a PNG. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on it, and we're going to save image as. And I'm just going to throw that inside here, that same music folder we were in before. And then close that, and then go back into where I just saved that to. And drag that in here as well. So with that selected, again, save all just for the principle of it. Click on it, and let's go ahead and add in another image. And we'll just go ahead and do the same thing here. And there's the TeknoAxe logo. We can actually put it anywhere we want to. Let's actually put it in here just because we want to make it visible. You don't have to make it this big. You can make it as small as you want or big as you want, just so you can actually give pay a little respect to where you're getting your free music from. It's always nice to pay back those who pay you, right? Compile and save. And now, let's go back in here and hit play. Another thing I want to do is hit quit there. We need to make sure we're good about our anchoring. I am very neglectful. Let's actually anchor this to the main image, to the upper right hand corner, or let's actually to the center. Our Technoax, let's anchor that to our upper right. So at least it'll stay anchored in certain positions no matter what your screen resolution is. Yeah, their website has been bugging out because of some security issues. There we go. So even though it's stretched, this is pushing it way out over here. So it doesn't matter what your resolution is. It will automatically keep this in the center, this in the top right, this in the bottom right, this in the top left, that kind of stuff. So if we actually played it in our standalone game and have that window up, we'll see how it looks there. Shoot me some questions, guys, of progress, what we've got so far. There you go. We've got our main menu. We have music playing. We've just thrown an image in there. We have an extra little promo for where we got our free music from. We can enable or disable our tutorial. Go in and play our game. Go directly into our regular play map if we want to. And then, yes, the only reason why I put this together like this is so I can sit here while I'm talking and annoy the crap out of you guys by my guy just sitting here jumping up and down and up and down and up and down. By putting the delay in there, it allows you to get positioned to wherever you want to go. So now we also have our escape menu, and we can choose to go back and keep playing, or we can go back to our main menu. There we go. So to keep this around the 1 hour mark, unless you guys want me to continue, is try to keep each video right at the 1 hour mark, and then if there's things you missed, you can always go back and watch it later, that kind of stuff. Just giving you the information to get you to this point. So the whole point of this, of having it as a live stream, so you guys can actually just jump in and actually ask questions, of why I do this, or how do you do that, or whatever. We're getting the base functionality of the front end of our game going first, and with that, you want your main functionality in place before you spend a lot of time making your game pretty. If you just jump right in and start, if you're doing the Paragon theme and you want to just sit there and throw in all those assets, you're going to be in the multiple gigabytes. Each character is between 1 and 2.5 gigabytes of hard drive space per character. The Agora Monolith, the map stuff that you can use, that's 17.5 gigabytes right there added to your project. You start adding in all those characters. This is what, 22 characters? So that's in excess of 40 gigabytes. You're looking at 40 to 50 gigabytes of hard drive space for one project. And if you just throw all those assets in there, you're going to have all that stuff in there and no functionality. You're not going to have a game. You're just going to have a bunch of assets. And then you're going to spend all of your time trying to make those assets work for you. One thing I want to ask is, how can you show when you're playing the tutorial and there's a finished place or a loading screen setup? Okay, well, if you want to set up an endpoint of your, one more final jump. You want to set up a way to end your tutorial. You get to this, and what we're going to do probably in the next video is actually cover a lot of that. And what we're going to do is we're going to start utilizing the game instance and then start working towards building a simple save game system. Simple and save game, it can seem complex because you're going to have to integrate stuff and ask questions between 4 or 5 different locations, and it can get complicated really quickly. So we want to take it slow and explain how everything works and why it works, because you're going to have to. Let's go ahead and go back to our main menu and quit game. You want to create, and we can look at our game modes, right click, create a blueprint class, and then we want to type in here save, and then we can select save game, hit select, and call this player save game. Or if you watch a lot of other tutorials, they call this my underscore save game. And then if you open it up, what you're going to end up doing is creating a series of variables here of what you want it to save in your save game. These same variables you have here also have to be in your player character. And then you have to set up functions within inside your player character to say what to do and how to do it. So I will save that for the next video, where I can dedicate some time to break it down and show in a slow way, so that you can follow along and not just copy and paste what I'm doing on the screen, but actually learn as you're putting down and why you're putting down those things. And hopefully that makes sense for you guys. If I do it right now, I'm just going to rush through it, and I'm going to miss something, you're going to miss something, and it just won't be as neat and clean. So the variables you're going to want, though, is if you want to save, like,